The old workshop smelled of metal polish and citrus oil. An ordinary ring at the bottom of a velvet box once redirected a career. Imagine that object whispering a rule you can follow. Before I tell you which ring to wear where, do a simple test with me now. Hold your dominant hand out, palm up. Breathe slow and steady 3 times. Let your shoulders drop. Focus on the hollow just under the base of your palm. Notice any warmth, a faint buzz, a tiny pressure like a pulse. If you felt even a hint of movement, that is the place where intention meets the body. That small sensation is not imagination. It is a live data point. Later, I will teach you Leo's 4-ring protocol, a 4-part system that turns any ordinary ring into a precise tool for abundance. If you are ready to begin, write in the comments now, "I claim my abundance." Stay with me because the order matters, and one skip step can leave the ring as cold metal. Now we go to the source to see why this method works. Centuries before modern financiers and brand gurus, there were craftsmen who treated jewelry like instruments. They cataloged weight, pitch, and placement like notes in a scale. In coastal archives, scholars recorded recipes that read like engineering manuals. The tradition that informs Leo's 4 rings combined a practical reading of the human body with symbolic correspondences drawn from sun, moon, and planetary motions. It was not superstition. It was a practical craft of tuning. The makers observed that different metals carried distinct thermal signatures, that stones responded to sunlight and moonlight with subtle shifts, and that a ring placed on one finger produced different behavioral alignments than the same ring on another finger. 2 historical notes support this practice. First, there are descriptions in old merchant ledgers of amulets being exchanged as guarantees of trust and productive partnership. Second, there are marginal notes in treatises on material culture that record the sensory tests artisans use to choose metals for clients. Those records show the same pattern we will use now: intention, material, placement, ritual. The legitimacy is pragmatic and repeatable. It is a craft of resonance rather than a doctrine of fate. The system you will apply has 4 clear steps. Think of it like tuning a radio. Step 1 is intention. Step 2 is material selection. Step 3 is placement on the body, the map of fingers. Step 4 is the activation ritual that programs the object. Together, they form a chain. If one link is skipped, the frequency slips. I will outline each step in high level now, and then unpack them in practice with precise words you can say and sensory checks you can feel. The metaphor that holds this together is a garden. Intention plants the seed. Material is the soil. Placement is where you plant it. Ritual is the watering. Throughout, I will name examples and give alternatives so you can adapt the system to your life. Leo grew up repairing radios and restoring pocket watches in a small coastal town. He learned to listen to frequency as a child, the hum of a transformer, the way a dial would click when a station locked in. As a young adult, he worked nights polishing silverware and by day apprenticing with a jeweler named Marcus who taught him to read metal by sound and touch. That practical apprenticeship embedded a belief that objects inherit stories from use and that a ring carries the echo of every handshake. His father Omar ran a shipping ledger and taught him to respect sequence and record-keeping. Early in his 20s, Leo started a small repair shop, then pivoted to advising creative freelancers on presentation and timing. He noticed patterns. People who wore a particular ring on a specific finger shifted their behavior in predictable ways. Clients called him a charm maker. Some called it framing. When a startup founder named Priya credited one of Leo's rings for a breakthrough pitch, he began to refine a protocol into 4 codified steps. Growing into the method, Leo faced personal doubt. He lost a big account after trusting a surface pattern without checking deeper beliefs. He had nights when the workshop was cold and the polish left his hands rough and his confidence thin. Elena, a friend and photographer, argued that the rings were theater and that real change came from practice, not props. At the same time, Jonah, a retired conservator, showed him laboratory notes on how copper and silver react to skin oils and sunlight, and that empirical data shifted Leo's thinking toward measurable practice. He kept detailed notes like Sarah, a researcher, and recruited a small group of testers, Marcus, Priya, Omar, Elena, Jonah, Sarah, and Ava, to iterate phrasing, placement, and cleansing sequences. Those years of trial and error produced the set of rules you will now learn, a set designed to be repeatable in an urban apartment or a small studio. Now we enter the 4 steps in detail, beginning with intention. Imagine your intention as a precise radio frequency, not a vague wish. A precise frequency is present tense, brief, and sensory. Do not say, "I will be rich." Say, "I am steadily attracting projects that pay me on time and expand my influence." Notice how that phrasing tightens the field. To form such an intention, first write a one-line statement in present tense, then add a sensory tag, a color, an image, or a sound that anchors it. For example, say, "I am signing 3 contracts that feel like warm paper and the sound of a pen tapping the desk." Say that aloud and feel the vibrations in your throat. The exercise to practice now closes the loop. Sit quietly and imagine the intention playing in present tense for 30 breaths. On each out-breath, say the single sentence and notice the micro-sensation. Under the base of your palm, the same place you tested earlier. After 30 breaths, stop and record any image that appears on the page. That image is your proof note. Intention in this system must be practiced until it produces a reproducible sensory signature. That signature allows you to test materials and placement against a consistent internal meter. Step 2 translates intention into material. There are 3 material families to consider: silver, copper, and gemstone settings with a base metal core. Each vibrates differently. Silver tends to align with clarity and communication. It feels cool and produces a faint metallic taste in the mouth when you focus on it as a symbolic sensor. Copper conducts movement and opportunity. It often warms quickly on the skin and smells faintly of earth and sap after wear. Gemstone settings amplify a particular quality. The blue of lapis pairs to discernment, the green of aventurine to attraction of resources, while clear quartz acts like a magnifier. When choosing, select 3 candidate rings. Try them in natural light and notice 5 senses. See the luster against skin, feel weight and temperature. Listen to any soft chime when you tap it. Smell any residue like metal or oil, and name the color tone that appears in your mind. Leo advised testers to carry each candidate for 1 day and record micro-reactions to sounds, in conversation, and changes in appetite or energy. A practical recommendation is to prefer a simple band for daily use and reserve stones for meetings or ceremonies. Think strategically. Use copper for initiating projects, silver for contracts, and a stone set ring for consolidation. Step 3 is the map the body presents to the rings. Each finger carries an archetypal tune. The thumb organizes will and movement. The index organizes leadership and projection. The middle finger organizes balance and boundaries. The ring finger aligns with relationships and resources. And the little finger tunes communication and negotiation. Map these to planetary archetypes in practical terms. Sun corresponds to the ring finger, moon corresponds to the little finger, and so on in our simplified model. Leo's 4-ring method uses a primary ring for resources worn on the ring finger, a secondary for presence on the index, a daily band on the thumb, and a testing stone on the little finger for negotiations. To practice, choose the ring you want to program and hold it between thumb and index. Close your eyes and imagine moving the energy from your intention center under your palm up the arm and into the finger where the ring will sit. Feel the temperature of the ring shift. Imagine a tiny resonance like a bell when the finger and intention meet. Test by wearing the ring for 1 hour and then checking the palm sensation again. If the sensation dampens, rotate the ring to the adjacent finger for a fresh resonance check, and record which finger produced the clearest pulse. Practical examples help. For a freelance designer, targeting steady income, wear the copper band on the ring finger during invoicing and the silver on the index during client calls. Now for the activation ritual, the step that bonds matter to intention. Cleanse the ring first with running water and a soft cloth. Then clear it with smoke of dried rosemary or with sunlight for 3 minutes if you are using solar symbolism, or moonlight for nocturnal intentions. Place the ring in the hollow of your palm with fingers curled like a cup. Speak a short declarative phrase 3 times in present tense. Examples follow. I amplify open opportunities now. I claim steady receivable energy now. I align this ring to attract projects that honor my time now. Each repetition should be said with breath and with a tactile press of the thumb to the ring as if sealing a post. After speaking, press the ring gently into the skin of the finger for 30 seconds, feeling warmth and the minuscule pressure. Leave the ring on for 15 minutes before formal use, then remove and carry it in your pocket until the next sunrise. When you speak the phrase, let it be clear and unadorned. Avoid florid language. The integrity of the sentence matters more than length. Warnings and care instructions include avoiding shared rings without reprogramming and not using intoxicants during activation to preserve intention clarity. Now, a centered conversation between Leo and Mara, a skeptical friend, to illustrate how this works in practice. Use this exchange to model the checks you must do and include sensory notes throughout. Leo says, I have 4 rings and a protocol that maps intention to placement. Mara replies, that sounds theatrical. How do I know it will not just be lucky coincidence? Leo answers, when you speak the phrase and feel the pulse under your palm, then you have a measurable signature. Mara asks, what if I cannot feel anything? Leo replies, then we lengthen the listening period and adjust the material and the finger. Mara asks, so you test different metals and fingers? Leo answers, exactly, and we record reactions across days. Mara asks, and you really ask people to say simple sentences out loud? Leo answers, yes, because the vibration of the spoken word coordinates breath, posture, and attention. Mara asks, how do you prevent wishful thinking? Leo answers, we build small trials with objective metrics like calls returned, contracts signed, or income recorded, and compare periods with and without the ring. That is 8 exchanges with a practical back and forth. During the exchange, notice the smell of coffee on the table, the warm weight of the ring in Leo's palm, the clink of glassware in the background, the soft scrape of a chair, the cool light coming through the window, and the dry paper texture of the notebook where they record results. Those 5 sensory cues anchor the conversation in real life. There are moments when the method is tested and must confront resistance. Mara. One occurred when Leo placed a copper ring on a client named Ava who expected immediate change and left disappointed when nothing happened that week. The client's frustration activated doubt, and Leo had to explain that the system needs alignment with actionable behavior. He asked Ava to track 3 steps she would take daily and to wear the ring during those actions. The tension resolved over a month when small, consistent wins appeared. Moment 2 came when Elena accused the practice of creating dependence. That night, Leo went back to his notes and found confirmation that the rings amplify pre-existing tendencies rather than fabricate new ones. He designed a small accountability exercise to pair ritual with real tasks. Moment 3 was personal. Leo's own confidence wavered after a string of rejections, and he was tempted to blame the tools. He then performed a personal audit, naming beliefs that undercut his pitches and rewired them with short declarative sentences. Each of these moments, compressed into 2 or 3 paragraphs, tested the method and revealed the need to pair ritual with practical action. Alongside those tensions, there are concrete case notes from testers. Priya, the startup founder, wore a copper ring on the ring finger before investor meetings and tightened for speaking rhythm. Marcus, the jeweler, used a silver band on the index when negotiating supply terms and reported clearer call returns. Omar, the ledger keeper, adopted a simple daily invocation and saw a small but steady increase in timely payments. Sarah, the researcher, ran a blinded sequence comparing weeks and logged measurable differences in email response rates. Jonah, the conservator, noted that when a stone was programmed and used in a presentation, the audience responded with longer questions. These are not miracles. They are patterns of alignment coupled with purposeful behavior. The ring acts as an amplifier and a reminder. It keeps attention where it matters. Before I close, there is one more practice that binds giving to receiving, which I call the ring of generosity. When you receive a gain, put the ring away for one day and perform a short act of generosity proportional to the gain. That could be a thank you note, a small gift, or a public acknowledgement. This closes the loop and prevents accumulation patterns that feel hollow. It also trains the system to operate in circulation rather than stagnation. Recap now, and a final practical step for the next 24 hours. You tested the palm site, you formed a clear present tense intention, you selected material, and you mapped placement to the finger. You cleansed and activated the ring with a 3-phrase declaration. Today, your task is simple. Pick an object you use daily and perform a condensed activation. Say your one-line intention 3 times, hold the ring in your palm, and feel for the pulse. Then wear it during one focused task. Leave a note in the comments with the exact phrase you used and whether you felt a palm sensation. That comment functions as our community marker and helps others calibrate their experience. If this method resonated and you want more practical drills that connect ancient craft to measurable outcomes, subscribe to stay updated. Share this with someone who treats objects like tools and not talismans. In 1 month, return and compare your record of calls, returns, or contracts to the preceding month. That will be the first formal checkpoint. 1 month later, the testers reported small, repeatable changes. Priya had 1 extra pitch meeting that led to a contracted pilot. Mara, who had been skeptical, noted a clearer rhythm in her schedule and a small uptick in freelance work. Leo kept a log where he compared income and outreach engagement and found a modest but consistent upward trend. The ring that had been a curiosity now functioned as a cue to tangible actions. Clients were already predisposed to take. Most participants reported a change in posture, a micro shift in how they sat and spoke during important moments. They also reported the ritual created a container that reduced decision friction, which freed mental bandwidth for work. Sensory notes in these reports included a recurring description of warmth under the palm, a faint metallic echo when thinking through a negotiation, and an image of light on the ring that participants used as a mental anchor. 1 month demonstrated that with disciplined use, the system yields measurable small wins that compound. 3 months in, the pattern deepened. Some testers consolidated gains into habits. Marcus renegotiated a supplier timeline with clearer terms. Ava closed a small deal after pairing her ring activation with a specific list of outreach steps. Sarah's controlled comparison over 12 weeks showed an improved response rate in weeks following activation days compared to control weeks. At 3 months, the method became less about novelty and more about structure. The rings functioned like bookmarks for intention. People who combined the rings with accountability practices reported the best outcomes. Shared metrics included response speed, number of signed agreements, and perceived confidence during meetings. Sensory reports continue to include the soft chime of metal in daylight, a clean taste when speaking, a lucidness in visuals during pitch decks, and the simple tactile comfort of a ring that fit well. 6 months later, the transformations were more visible and durable. Leo's early doubters had integrated the method into professional routines. Priya expanded her pilot into a recurring client and credited the pairing of ring activation and concrete task lists. Omar's ledger grew steadier as he implemented short rituals before invoicing and before reconciliation work. Elena adopted a minimalist set of rings for photo shoots that helped her set boundaries and manage time more precisely. Across the board, the biggest change was not sudden wealth, but improved decision architecture. Testers reported making clearer yes and no choices, taking fewer distracting calls, and preserving energy for projects that matched their intention. The ring of generosity prevented the ritual from becoming obsessive and encouraged circulation. At 6 months, the community around the protocol began exchanging variations and small improvements. This documentation cycle is what allows a craft to move from personal habit to shared practice. You felt the pulse, you learned the 4 steps, and you have a clear experiment to run. In the next 24 hours, pick a ring, form a present tense sentence, cleanse and activate it, and wear it during one key task. Leave your activation sentence in the comments and tell us whether you sensed the palm pulse. If this method made sense, subscribe for more step-by-step practices that combine craft and measurement. Share the video with someone who sees objects as tools. Remember the closing line that ties this together. The ring is not the source, the ring is the mirror you wear.